Hello, Internet. So nice to see you. Welcome to another Music Theory Talk. And if you're watching us, say hi in the chat. Say where you're from. We like to know where you're watching us from. We like to say hi back. And if you have any questions about the topic of today, don't be shy. Ask your questions in the chat, in the comments. I'm going to read them. We're going to take a few of them and so on. So, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about beyond boomer bands, okay? I don't even remember who started with the whole boomer band thing. Was Tim Henson from Polyphia? Saying that stuff like that are boomer bands and we can invent new stuff. So he's not using those because they sound old. Great. We can go well beyond that, okay? And for the topic of today, I invited an expert on guitar phrasing. So everybody, welcome, master guitar teacher, Tom Hess.
Hello.
Hello, Tom Hess.
Hello.
So, you know something about bands.
A little bit.
I guess.
Yeah.
A little bit. A little bit. So, we're going to talk about those. Oh, but first of all, how are you today, Tom Hess?
I'm doing well, but I didn't notice it earlier, but something is missing.
Something missing.
No one in the chat has yet commented, but something about you is missing. It's gone.
Yes. At least
what
a few
happened?
inches. Yes.
I
decided to concede the race to you.
The beard is chopped.
The beard is chopped.
All right.
A new era. No more getting stuck in the guitar strap for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about bands.
Sure.
So, well, tell us everything about bands. I'm gonna go with that.
Well, first of all, until you mentioned it, I had never heard the term boomer bends, but it's a funny term. So whoever came up with that one was pretty witty. And maybe they're talking about, like unison bends and things like that. So kind of sounds kind of old school. They're still cool. I mean, I'm not a boomer, but I guess I like the boomer bends. They're still pretty cool. There are other things you can do with those kinds of bends than what you normally hear. So, for example, what I just played are really called double stop bends or unison bends. So this is where you're bending a note. In this case, I'm bending D to sound like E. And then we got E on the next string. So the first finger is holding E. My third finger is holding D on the second string. So that's a unison bend, which is a type of double stop bend. So what's a double stop bend? Double stop bend is any time that you have, well, double stop is when you're playing two notes on two different strings. That's a double stop. So double stop bend is, for example, that is the unison bend. But there are others. You could do it instead of unisons. You could do it with thirds. You sometimes hear that. So I'm bending D to sound like E. And then with my little finger, I'm grabbing the G note on the high E string. So it's a fairly common, less common than the unison bend, but fairly common double stop bend. It sounds cool when you add a little vibrato to it. So that's a double stop bend in thirds. You can also do double stop bends in fourths. So here, you do the same thing. You bend D to E in this example. Then you take your little finger and you put it on fret 17 of the first string. So this is A, the A note. So that's a fourth. It's the same as doing this. We can also do fifths. So if you wanted to go higher, make the interval bigger, you might want to bend maybe with your first two fingers instead of the first three fingers. Take D, bend it up to E. Take your little finger, put him on B. So this is fret 19 of the first string. So you have a fifth. You can go up higher than that. Reach it. So that's a minor 6th bend. Third, fourth, fifth. So those are examples of double stop bends, and of course there are others, but those are really cool. And to make the sound more gritty or grinding, you can add some vibrato here. In this case, if I'll do it with the thirds. Now, when I do that, I'm adding vibrato to both strings, the bent string, string 2, and string 1, which is not bent. And to do that, I'm not moving my fingers at all. I'm not wiggling my fingers or moving them. The fingers are stiff. So these fingers don't move at all. The only thing that moves is this. Using my forearm, and I'm just doing this with the forearm, which of course, since my hand is attached to the forearm and my fingers are stiff, the fingers are just going along as the whole forearm torques over. So that's how you're able to get vibrato on both strings, the bent string and the unbent string, and have both notes go up and down together. And that's pretty important. You want the notes to go up and down together and not at different rates of speed, which might happen if you tried doing it with your fingers instead of with your arm. So what I tell my students when I teach this is, go ahead and make the bend, then play this note, then keep your fingers stiff like concrete. Imagine they're a concrete statue. They cannot move. They can't wiggle. They can't bend. They're totally inflexible. Okay. And now just turn your arm. Look over here. Just turn your arm, and both of these strings will go up and down in tune by the same amount. And it's going to sound pretty nice, pretty aggressive. So that's a cool way to get the gritty sound. Without the vibrato, all we have is this, which is okay, but then the life kind of goes away. There's no real action on the string or life in the bend. That's all we have. Now we're just waiting for it to decay. But with vibrato, it's more aggressive. It sounds cooler. So that's certainly one cool thing you can do with double stop.
And you are vibrating both notes.
Both, yes. Both of them are coming up. I mean, the fingers are not moving, but since the arm is, as long as the fingers stay stiff, both strings are going to move and move by the same amount. So it's an easy way to keep the strings locked in parallel motion.
That will require some practice to get it right.
Yeah, a lot of times I've had students where they thought that you've got to be really strong, have really strong hands or fingers, and that's really, you don't. It's really not true, because the fingers aren't moving at all. I mean, they're moving along, with the hand. Okay, and the hand's moving, so the fingers are moving, but their position relative to the hand, there's no movement there. It's not like doing this, where relative to the hand they're moving. So it's just about getting your fingers to just stay in place. Now, when the hand moves, the fingers move because they're attached to your hand. So that's the main thing. If people want to wiggle their fingers and then they try and do it, it's really hard to control both strings and get them to move up together and down together exactly the same amount. I mean, it's possible, but it's really hard. Yeah. The way I'm doing it is really easy. It's the easiest way that I know to do it.
Yeah. Why would we do something harder?
Yeah. There's no benefit. It's not like it's going to sound better or anything like that. So it's just doing it the other way is just doing it harder for there's only downside and risk. There's no upside to doing it that way.
We have a relevant question here. So let me do that. Can you show where your thumb is on the neck when you do that?
I can, but it doesn't matter. So I will answer the question, but here's the problem with a question like that. Okay. And I get asked this question a lot about anything, scales, arpeggios, chords, doesn't matter. People often want to know, where do you put your thumb? Okay. Now, the problem with asking the question is not that the question is not valid. I mean, your thumb has to go somewhere, and you probably want to know where it goes. But when people ask that question, most people, I don't know about in this particular example, but in most cases, when people ask that question, what they're going to do is they're going to take the answer, no matter who gives them the answer, and they're going to say, oh, my thumb is supposed to go here, or it's supposed to go here, or it's supposed to go here. So that what they do is they start by placing the thumb in whatever spot they were told to put the thumb. And they do that first. And then once the thumb is in the correct place, whatever that is, then they figure out, okay, well, now with my thumb locked in here, now what do I do with the rest of the fingers? Well, we got it backwards. Okay. It's completely backwards. You always want to start with, where do the fingers go that are going to play the notes? That's the first question to ask. The last question to ask is, what do I do with my thumb? Because you want your fingers, and again, it doesn't matter what you're playing, scale, arpeggio, blues lick, bends, doesn't matter. You want your fingers to be in the optimal place, in the best place in relation to the strings on the guitar. So you start with these fingers first. Once these fingers are in place in the ideal spot, then we can deal with, okay, what do we do with our thumb? Okay. And the thing is, if we started with our thumb, we're going to run into problems as soon as we move our hand down the neck or up the neck, because the thumb can't be in the same place. So if I said, take your thumb and hold your hand like this and never change this, well, that's not going to work everywhere on the guitar. It's not going to work up here because, I mean, it's impossible to keep that thumb in that spot. Okay. When we're down here, the thumb might come more behind this finger. When we're up here, it might come more behind the first finger. When we're up here, it might be on that, and it is going to be on that side of the first finger. So even if I could tell you, here's where you put your thumb, and this is the rule, follow this rule, that rule has to change depending upon where we are. So the starting point question is, where should I put the fingers that are going to play the notes? Where should they be? How should they be in relation to the neck? Should they be parallel with the guitar neck? Should they go off on an angle like this? Should they be in some, those are the kind, should they be like this? Should they be like this? Should they be like this? Those are the questions you want to answer first. The thumb is the very last piece on the priority. Now, I said I would answer the question, so I will, after all that other stuff said. So when I'm playing here on fret 15, and again, if I played at fret 5, it would be different. But on fret 15, assuming that I'm using 3 fingers, my thumb is coming right over the fret wire at the 11th fret. So it's between the fret wire of fret 11 and onto the space in between the frets on fret 12. That's about where it is. Okay, and you can see my thumb peeking up right there. Okay, but if I use finger 2 to play the exact same thing, my thumb's got to move. I mean, it doesn't have to, but it makes sense for it to move. So now it's in the space between fret 13. Okay, so this is the problem with, where do I put my thumb? Well, that depends. Depends on what fret you're on. Depends on what you're going to do. It depends on what fingers you're using. It depends on what you played before. It depends on what you're going to play after. All of those things may influence or move the thumb around. With a scale, same thing. If we played a scale, you might start with your thumb. My thumb right now is right here. It's right behind this spot on the guitar. Okay, that's where my thumb is right now. If I'm going to play, let's say, a C major scale. But once I get to go to the high E string, my thumb is now right here. So it started here, and now it's here. So the thumb glides along, just like if I take my hand away, the thumb is gliding along as I go across the strings. It's not staying in the same spot. Okay, so.
Yep. And like you were saying, it depends where you are on the guitar, what you're playing, what you played before. It depends on your hands, how long or short are your fingers, where did your thumb attach exactly.
Right, and what you might have to play next might influence it too.
And also what comes next. Doing the same thing as you, my thumb comes out around the 13th fret wire. Yours comes out around the 11th fret wire. So
which is unusual because you have bigger hands than I do.
Yeah, but I have my weird positions. I know that I hold the guitar in a different way than you.
Yeah.
I always tell people, don't copy me. It's never going to work for you. I have very idiosyncratic techniques. But yeah, exactly. It depends. Some people are more this way, some people are more this way. It depends on a number of things. So one is to put the fingers in the right position and then find out where the thumb ends up.
Yeah. The thumb, you don't want the thumb to dictate anything that these fingers, the ones that are playing the notes, are going to do. So you don't want the thumb to be an anchor somewhere where now you are now enforced in, like if we play like this and you force your fingers into this position, how well can you wiggle your fingers when the hand is closed, when these fingers are closed up? You want your fingers, if you're playing a scale or something, or a lick, you want the fingers to be open, easy to move. This is hard. So when people do this, especially when they play their guitar down like this and hold it this way, now that forces the thumb up, that forces these fingers back, it's not impossible to play that way. It's just a whole lot harder.
Exactly.
I prefer the easier way.
Yep. So, Robin, I hope that answered your question, and in case, ask a follow-up. In the meantime, we move on with other kinds of bends.
Yes. Before we move to the next kind of bend, let me just come back to the double stop bends. There's one other thing I wanted to share before we move on, and I call this grinding. Okay. So, and you guys you've all heard this before. I'll do the same bend. I'll take the double stop bend playing in thirds. Okay. Now, what's happening now is I'm just bending D up to sound like E, and then I'm playing G on the next string. But right now, they're in tune. But if we take the bent note and make it a little bit out of tune, you bend it up, then you come a little down, so it's a little out of tune, and then you go back up, make it in tune, and a little down. And I'm not talking about vibrato, which will go like this. I'm talking about real slow grinding. What you'll hear are these oscillations between the two notes as their relative intonation to each other is changing. You hear this grinding like sound. And it sounds really, I think it sounds really cool. It's very gritty, very grindy. It's I love that sound. It's kind of a bluesy, kind of a really dirty bluesy sound, but it's cool. You just bend up, you then release the bend a little bit slowly, and then you bend it back up. You kind of grind it back up, so you hear those oscillations grinding against each other. Then you bring it down a little bit. The whole time, the note that's not bent, the note on string one, it doesn't move at all. Okay, you don't want it moving, so it's got to stay right where it is. It's not moving.
Yep.
If you like that sound, it's great. If some people, my wife hates that sound, so it's like, oh, what are you doing? She does not like that sound. I love it. So just a personal preference.
I call that the gladiator rule of playing bands. You ever seen the movie Gladiator? I mean, the old one, not the new one. When he's training, the gladiator trainer tells him, you're good, but you're killing people too fast. You could be great, you just need to kill them slower, so there's more spectacle, there's more show. And this is exactly the same. People go to the band and they go in tune, and they're like, yeah, okay, it's cool, but if you take time getting there and you really meet that dissonance, it's more. And that's the idea. But yeah, some people.
Otherwise, what's the point of bending the string?
Yeah, otherwise, I will just play the two notes as. in unison, and that's it. And that's it. But I can see people like your wife specifically saying that why you're playing out of tune. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. She's not a fan. Not a fan of that sound. Although she's not a fan of blues either, so that might be part of the reason why.
We have to see which comes first. Maybe she's not a fan of blues also because of that.
Yeah, she is not a fan of blues. So
yeah, I can tell.
If a dominant seventh chord is not 5 or augmented sixth, she doesn't like it. So,
hey.
Okay. You asked earlier about, one comment here. See, Paul wrote, Stevie Ray Vaughan used to do that all the time. And yeah, you're right. He certainly did, as well as other players too. And it always sounded great. Certainly when Stevie Ray Vaughan did it, always sounded awesome. So yeah, definitely. Thanks for pointing that out, Paul. Tommaso, you asked about other kinds of bends.
Yes.
And here's a category of bends that sounds really cool. It's really easy to do. It sounds very exotic, and you'll hear people like Marty Friedman do this a lot, especially older Marty Friedman. If you don't know who Marty Friedman is, sorry. Sorry that you don't know. Might want to check him out. He's really great. Anyway, but exotic bends are when you take a note that's not in the key that you're playing in, and you bend it up to a note that is in the key. So, for example, let's say we're in the key of E major. So there's our E major scale. So as you know, or as I think you know, an E major scale has 7 notes in it. And we have 12 notes total in the chromatic scale. So if we play one of the notes not in the key, we play that note very briefly and then immediately bend up to a note that is in the key, it's going to have a very exotic sound. So here's an example. So I played the first note of the key, E. Then I played F sharp right after. So to get from E to F sharp, instead of going directly E, then F sharp, I'll play E, then I'll play F, which is not in the key of E major, and bend up right away to F sharp. So there I went from F sharp to G sharp. But then I played G in the middle, not in the key. So if you stay on the note that's not in the key, G in this case, it's going to sound kind of bad. This sounds wrong. But if we do this, so there I've bent A sharp or B flat to sound like B. So those are exotic bends. I did 2 types, some that ascended and a couple that descended. We'll talk about those maybe a little bit later. But it's basically you just take any scale, okay, and you choose a note that you want to play that is in the key, but you approach it from 1 fret lower from a note that's not in the key. So again, an example, if we wanted to play the B note, there's B right there, and we wanted to approach it from a note not in the key, it sounds really cool. You hear Marty Friedman do this a lot, although he doesn't really tend to do the descending version. He almost always does the ascending version, which also sounds very, very cool. On the You can also do descending bends, where if we take those same ideas and go down, okay? So let's say we're playing a scale, again, E major. Now, if we wanted to make this more dramatic, what I did there was, when I came down the scale to G sharp, instead of playing F sharp as a normally fretted note, I did, now I'm going to play F natural, bend up quickly to F sharp, and now start to release the bend to E. Now, to get that particular sound, it's important not to release the note all the way down. So when I teach this to students, one of the things they will do, unless I correct it, is they will bend up. So they got that part right. They're bending up. And then they release that bend all the way down to where they started from. Well, now you're definitely on a note that's not in the key. And then they hang there a little bit before going to the next note in the key. In this example, that note would be E. And it just kind of sounds off. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Those are not the droids you're looking for, okay? That doesn't sound very nice, at least not to my ears. If you like it, that's great. But for me, that sounds pretty bad. Instead, what we want to do, I'll draw you a picture. We're going to play this F note. Okay, we had G sharp before. We're going to take the F note. We're going to quickly bend up. And then we're going to slowly grind it down. Release, that means release the bend. But we're not going to release it all the way down. Okay? We're only going to release it down maybe halfway, maybe so it's a quarter step. And then we're going to drop the note down to E. And I'll show you what I'm going to show you the picture in a moment. If I can draw a straight line, you'll see it. That's straight enough. Okay? So here's what it looks like, kind of graphically here. We're playing G sharp, okay? Just a normal note. So I'm on, that's fret 13, string 3, okay? Then we're going to play F, string 3, okay? Fret 10. Bend up quickly, so it sounds like, so F sounds like F sharp. This says half, that means it's a half step bend. We're going to release it slowly down. Not quickly, slowly, but not all the way down to F. You start on F, you bend up, but we're not going to release it down to F. No good. We're going to release it maybe halfway down, or in other words, go from a half step bend to maybe a quarter step. Okay. And when you get to about here, you drop the string all the way down, so it's not bent anymore, and you play the final note. In this case, it's E. Okay. So if you want to take it, here's a little closer for you guys to see. And now I'll play it. I'll play the G sharp, the F, bent up to a half step, slow release down to about a quarter step, approximately. Then drop the string immediately and play the E. Okay? So here's what that sounds like. G sharp. So F, up quickly to F sharp, half step bend, let it grind down, about halfway down, so now it's a quarter step, and then drop the string and hit E. So again, so this bend, that's not F sharp, and it's not F. It's somewhere in between. This is F sharp here. Slow release down, but don't go all the way down to F. That will sound not so nice. Drop the string so it's not bent anymore. Play E, smack the vibrato. People like it. Most people like it. So that's an example of a descending exotic bend. starting on a note not in the key, going up to a note that is in the key, coming down, slow release down, but not all the way. Drop the string. Here's the E. You play the E. Nice little vibrato at the end, and that's the end of the phrase. And you could, of course, do that anywhere, right? You could do that anywhere in the key. So that I did it on a bunch of notes. I did it on the C sharp. So C up to C sharp, down halfway, then drop to B. Then I'm playing A, B. I'm playing B flat or A sharp. Quick bend up to B. Slow grind down, about halfway, then drop the string. Hit the A note. G up to G sharp. Release it down about halfway. Drop the string. Now F sharp. Same thing here. F to F sharp. Drop about halfway. Drop the string. And you end on E. So all together. I love that sound. If you heard me play much, you hear me do that kind of stuff a lot.
And you're playing on a major scale, so it's nothing complicated.
Yeah, it's just E major. That's it.
Yep. Everybody watching this, if you like the sound, give a like to this live stream on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you. And so other people will see this. Okay? Help other people find this. So you're playing on a major scale. Of course, you can do this on any scale. So of course, you can do on any position of the scale. Of course, you can do this everywhere. So the possibilities are amazing here. There's so much.
Yeah. It's a way to expand the scale without really going chromatically outside. I mean, you are playing outside notes, but you're bending so quick and then just releasing. It sounds exotic. It sounds very dramatic, at least to my ear. But it's not like jazz where we're intentionally playing, sharp 9 and flat 9 and flat 6 and all that stuff over a major scale, over a major chord. We're not really altering the scale in a sense. We're just using more of the guitar, more of the chromatic scale to accentuate the notes that are in the scale, are in the key. So different than like what a jazz player might do with just strictly altering the scale. This is not that.
And I have an interesting comment here that Robin says, I can hear Gilmour in that technique. And
I don't think so. I've never in my life have I heard David Gilmour do that with exotic bends. I could be wrong.
Exactly. You're right. What I think Robin is hearing, it's the thing you're doing, that you're playing a note and then bending to it. So you're playing the note. You're doing with exotic bends. Gilmour tends to do it with notes of the scale. So playing the note first and then bend to that. So that part, yes, but doing it with exotic bend, no. Never heard Gilmour doing that either.
Yeah, no, I've never heard it. Doesn't mean he hasn't done it somewhere. I mean, I haven't listened to everything he's done, but I haven't heard it. But when Robin wrote the comment and I saw it, I thought maybe what Robin meant was simply just descending a bend, but not using exotic stuff. So he might do. He wouldn't do it with that kind of vibrato, but just, bending up and then slow release down. But there's nothing exotic about it because everything is diatonic to the scale.
Indeed.
But Gilmour's a cool player and he's got some great phrasing. So I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Just that I don't think he uses exotic bends. I think he does other things, which are also cool.
But again, I never heard him either. But I mean, open to open to be enlightened if somebody heard them using exotic bend.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the release bend you just did. So, because lots of people bend up, very few people do the release bend because
Yeah.
it's technically more difficult. Could you comment on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, physically, it's no more difficult. Where it gets difficult is for your ear and your sensitivity. So sometimes people call these, I think, ghost bends, where the string is pre-bent. You're bending the string without playing it. So the string is bent. Hopefully, it's in tune when you bend it. You don't really know by ear because you don't hear it yet, but you might know by feel, okay, how much to bend it. Then once the string is bent, let me draw a picture here. You pre-bend the note, full step, half step, whatever, okay? You don't get a chance to hear it yet. So in notation, it would look like this. Where a normal string bend would have an arc here where you're playing it, you hit the note down here, you bend up, even if it's really fast. Here, it's already pre-bent, and you have to kind of know, or at least try and guess, where the in tune. If you're too high, it's out of tune. If you're too low, it's out of tune. So it takes practice to get that feel. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty good at it, but it took a long time because when I first tried to learn it, I learned it actually fairly quickly because I only practiced it on the same string at the same fret. So the feeling was always the same. And I memorized how it felt to bend up. Like I know that's in tune because I've done it so many times in my life. I know that's perfectly in tune. But if you move your hand down here or onto a different string, everywhere on the guitar, the feeling is different because the string is under more or less tension depending upon where you are. The farther away you go from the 12th fret, the greater the tension is on the string. It means it requires more force, physical force, to bend the string up the same amount because the string is tighter on the edges by the nut and by the bridge, okay? And particularly down here, the frets are, the distance is really big. So it doesn't feel the same. So to really learn this, you kind of have to memorize what every string and every fret feel like, and that's a lot to memorize, okay? But basically what you do to get started, just do what I did. Start with one string, one fret, maybe the 15th fret of the B string, for example. Okay. So I know that's in tune. I mean, I can hit that every time because I've done it so many times. Okay. There's nothing special about me. I've just practiced it a lot. Okay. But the point is you want to bend the string up, bend it so it's already bent, hit the string and then release it. So I'm going from E to D. And you can either hit it again if you want or not. So that's a ghost bend. Some people call it a descending bend or a release bend. There's different names. People use different names for it. But it's a cool sound. It's an unusual sound. You don't, as Dr. Zio said, you don't hear it very often because it's for two reasons. One, it's hard to do. If you're not used to, if you haven't practiced it, there's risk involved. Okay. So if you see a guitar player and he's on stage and there's 4,000 people in the audience and he's going to do that, he's got to be really confident that he knows exactly how far to bend that string and whatever fret he's on to be in tune. Otherwise, he's going to play an out of tune bend in front of 4,000 people. That's not a very comfortable situation to be in. So that's one reason why you don't hear it a lot. There's simply risk involved in doing it live. And then the second reason is that because it's not used very much, we're just used to hearing bends that go up. So because we hear it so often, it's just kind of becomes a natural thing for us to do. Just like people use the same words or the same phrases often because they're very, very common without really even thinking about it, speaking in cliches or, phrases that people repeat all the time. But it's a cool sound. Because it's unexpected. When someone plays a note on the guitar, you're expecting that note to either stay the same, like if you played a regular note, the note doesn't move, or you would expect maybe some vibrato where it moves up and then back down. or you expect it to go up in a bend and maybe be released, but you don't really expect a lot of this. It's just not very common. So because it's not common, there's a lot of opportunity there to develop phrasing that sounds more unique to you because people just aren't used to hearing that. And it's not because, all the guitar players in the world got together and said, okay, guys, let's have a meeting. Let's discuss this bend stuff. And let's all come into an agreement that ascending bends are better than descending bends. So that's what we're all going to do. I assure you, no conversation like that ever took place. Okay. We're stuck with ascending bends just because of tradition and for the reasons that I mentioned. So if you're not sure when you bend the string up, if you're not sure, am I in tune or not? Well, of course, then you have to do it the old way, which is play the note. So do it this way and learn, what does that feel like? What is it? Don't look. Don't try and judge with your eyeballs. Okay, I think the string is about right. That's not going to work. Okay, because there's no time for that when you're playing for real. You have to know how much force to use. Now, in the beginning, you really only know how much force is needed to hold the string in tune. But that doesn't tell you how much you need to accelerate to get it in tune in the first place. There's two different things. How much force is required to hold it here, and how much acceleration is required to do that quickly. Okay, it's two different things. We have force to hold it and acceleration to get there, assuming that this bend needs to happen fast, because you may not have a lot of time in between, what you're playing, the lick before, the note before. You may not have a lot of time to, okay, let's see. Okay, I think this is about right. Now I'll play you don't have to, you're already into the next measure now. It's too late. So you got to get there pretty quick. Okay. So you got to measure the acceleration. Okay. So first you bend it, make sure it's in tune. That's step one. Step two, once you got that, pause here. How much force does it need? What's it feel like to hold it? You want to start to memorize that. Then the third step is to measure, if I have to do this quickly, how much force in the acceleration do I need to get it to this point? That's the harder part, the last piece. But I would do it in that order. Get it in tune. Okay. Memorize what it's like to hold it. Then start to memorize the acceleration. You just try it a bunch of times and see. Was that in tune? Is that in tune? Was that in tune? These are I don't know if you guys can hear, but each one of those bends was slightly off. Okay. And I'm doing that just to show you that when you're doing it, you're trying to realize, is it sharp? Is it flat? If you don't know if it's a little too high or a little too low, then you're not really going to be able to adjust it. If you went a little too high or you're not able to adjust it to bring it in tune quickly, which is important. Because if you overshoot or undershoot and you don't bend quite enough, you need to fix it real fast. Otherwise, the listener perceives that the bend is out of tune. If you're able to fix it fast enough and smoothly enough, the listener won't perceive it as a mistake, as an error. It'll just sound like a little phrasing nuance. So it'll sound musical, not like you're correcting an error, even if that's what you're doing. So the point is, you can cover up mistakes, not just here, with other things too, and make them sound like you meant to do that and it sounds good, and not like, oh crap, I goofed up. Let me fix this, guys. Hold on one second. You don't want that.
You can fix it only if you know if it's higher or lower than what it should be by ear. Otherwise, you can't fix it because you don't know in what direction you have to go.
Yeah, you got to use the feel to get there in the first place, and then you got to use your ear to correct if necessary. Hopefully, that won't be necessary, but if it is, the ear has to respond right away, because any delay in the response just makes it sound like a mistake. It makes it sound like what it is. It's an error.
Good. Okay. And how can we make those sound even better? I mean, not the release band, but in general, do we have anything more that we can add to?
Sure. Certainly we can add vibrato to all of that stuff. But even before, and we'll talk about that, but even before we get to the vibrato, here's something else that's pretty cool that you can do. And I call this double bends, not to be confused with double stop bends or unison bends. Double, when I say double bends, I mean you're going to bend a string and then you're going to take that same string and bend it again to a different note. So you're bending, then from here, bending again, higher or lower, but higher usually sounds cooler in this case. So it would look like this. You got a note here. We're bending it up, maybe a full step, maybe a half step, doesn't matter. And then whatever the next note in the key is, okay? So if I bent, let's say, F sharp, if we're in the key of E major, if I bent F sharp up to the next note in the key, that would be G sharp. Then from here, bend up to the next note of the key, which is A, okay? Now when I'm doing this, I'm not going to pick the note again. You could pick it again, but I don't like to most of the time. It's smoother and sounds more unexpected if you don't hit the note a second time. You pick it down here, you bend up, then you bend it up here, okay? And then we're up here, you can come release this bend partially, and then you can drop the string to play either F sharp, or you can go all the way down to G. I'm sorry, down to E. So let me just show you let me just do this part first. So here is E major again. There's E, here's F sharp. So from F sharp, I'm going to bend up to G sharp. Now I bent from G sharp, I bent up to A. So F sharp, up to G sharp, up to A, which is not the same as going from F sharp all the way up to A, where you don't stop. That's just simply a 1.5 step bend, which we could do that too, but that's different. These are really two different bends. So F sharp to G sharp to A, and then down to F sharp. So there, I bent 2 steps that last time. I bent B up to C sharp. That's a whole step. Then from C sharp, I went up to D sharp. That's another whole step. So it's 2 steps in total on one hit of the pick. Whoop. That's a little better. Now, when you try, this guitar has really good sustain, okay? And a lot of guitars won't sustain as well as this one does. So if you're trying it on your guitar, and right here between the G sharp and the A, if the note is dying on you, like you got from here to here, pretty good, okay? And now when you go from here to here, the note is just, there's almost nothing left. The note is dying. And you feel like I need to hit the string again because it's not ringing out anymore. If that happens, there are some things that you can do. The first thing that you can do is that when you first hit the string, when you're down here and you're hitting the F sharp note, make sure that the pick is picking straight across and not on an angle this way or an angle this way. Okay, because you want the string to vibrate more this way. You don't want it coming on an angle where it might slap against the fretboard just slightly, because that starts killing the note. So step one, make sure that pick is going straight across. The second thing is, if the note still starts dying out, See, we waited a long time, so the note finally died. If that happens, jerk your hand here. So you bend up normally, and then instead of just pushing the string further, you do a little jerk. Okay, and that jerk is basically taking the string. It looks like this. And the jerk bend looks like this. So you're not, this is probably too big. I'm not coming down that far. It's a quick jerk down and up. It's very angular. And what that does is that shocks the string. It sets the string back in motion. We're putting some violence on the string, which helps it to resonate more so that the sustain lasts longer. Okay. So when I was doing it, most of the time, that's what I was doing. I was jerking the string, not just nice and smoothly going up. I jerked it to make sure that I had enough sustain for that A note. So right there. So just watch how the hand moves. That's without the jerk. That's just bend and then bending again. That's normal. See, that's a little bit weaker. But when I do the jerk, there we go. The string sustains better. It rings out longer because I'm setting the string in motion. It's almost like hitting it again with the pick, but I'm not hitting it again. And when you're on the high E string, like that note was, and if you're going 2 steps up, then the jerk thing is even more valuable because on the high E string, 2 steps up, that string wants to die like immediately. So the little jerk on the second bend helps to stay in motion. Just makes everything a little nicer. So,
Wow.
were you muted for a moment there, Tommaso?
I was muted, but I was just in awe for a moment. Like, anyway,
we're just bending strings.
Yeah, it's the simple things, you know.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things that bothers me about guitars is that I so wish we had a bow and we could keep notes lasting forever. And I'm always looking, what can I do to make these notes not die so that I don't have to keep hitting it again? I don't like having to keep re-articulating it and keep hitting it. And you hear players do that all the time. They hit the note again and hit it again and hit it again because the note's dying. And there's got to be a way to get these strings to ring out a little bit longer. So how you hit the note, how you jerk the bend on the second one, vibrato keeps the string set. Certain vibrato keeps the string set in motion. So yeah, those things will help.
Yep.
We were going to talk, I think, about
the vibrato. On the string.
Yeah, vibrato. Okay. So let me draw you another picture. When you're playing a note that is not bent, just a normal note, and you're doing vibrato with your fretting hand, you can only go up, right? The note's here. You can go up, and then you can come back down and up and then down. That's all you can do. You can only go up. You can't go down. With a vibrato bar, you could go down, right? You could pull the bar down, and you could do vibrato going down. Okay. This guitar doesn't have a vibrato bar, and even if it did, I wouldn't use the bar anyway. But the point is, on a non-bent note, you can only go up unless you have a bar. When you bend a string, you have 3 choices. So here is our bent note. Okay, we're bending it up and we're just holding it out. Now from here, the vibrato can go up and down like this. So the vibrato can be higher than the bent note, or you could do the opposite. You could release the bend. So now the vibrato is lower. So this would sound like it would sound if you used a vibrato bar. Okay, those are the 2 main choices. But there's a third choice, which I like better because it's way more dramatic than the other two. So let me draw the picture again. Here's our bent note, and it's ringing out. And when I do vibrato on a bent note, most of the time, half the movements are above the note and half are below the note. So I'm alternating between going above and going below, and going above and going below. And I never stop. I never stop on this line unless I'm not going to do vibrato anymore and just hold out the rest of the bend. Then I would have to end on this line, straight line. Okay. So I am swirling around, up and down and up and down. And that does two things. The first thing that it does is it makes the total distance of the vibrato twice as big as it would otherwise be if you only went up or only went down. You've got more room. So now your vibrato can be thicker. The peaks and the valleys can be much wider. Okay. That alone will make it sound more aggressive. Okay. The other thing is that the string rarely touches the point of being in tune because it's all over the place. The listener will always perceive the midway point between the peaks and the valleys as what the note is. Okay. So the listener is not going to hear these peaks as the note. They're not going to hear the valleys as the note. The listener's ear will automatically choose the center point, and they will perceive the middle as being the note that you're playing. So because the human brain works that way and how we perceive this, and now it becomes absolutely crucial that the distance between the peaks and the center and the valleys and the center have to be exactly the same. If the peaks are higher, farther away from the center point than the valleys are, then the whole thing will sound out of tune. It will sound sharp. Same thing happens in reverse. If the valleys are lower than the peaks are high, then the ear will perceive the midway point is being flat, again, out of tune. So you want to match the peaks and the valleys. Now, this takes some practice to do. It's not something that, if you haven't done it before, this will take more than an hour or a day, okay? But here's basically the sound. So I'm going above the note and below the note. And it's only a half step bend, so it's not a very big bend, but it sounds the vibrato sounds really thick and wide. Sounds very aggressive. Now, half steps are small, so it's not very easy to get a lot of drama and aggression out of only a half step bend. But because we're going above and below, the total distance is very wide. So that's what gives it its aggressive sound. Not everybody likes that sound. I like that sound, and maybe you like it, or maybe you think, oh, that's way too much. I don't want to do that. That's okay. Then you just make the peaks and the valleys smaller. If that's too much for you or you don't like that style, that's okay. So that sounds pretty dramatic to me, and that dramatic sound is coming because I'm going above and below and above and below. I'm not just going only above or only below, which is what most people do when they do vibrato on bends. They choose one or the other. There are some that will do both. I mean, do what I'm doing, the swirling around it. But most choose one or the other. It's a different sound, and those sounds are cool too. If you like that sound, great. I like the swirling sound.
Yes. Yes. And again, everybody can decide the level of aggressiveness they want to put in their playing, and it depends on the style you play. Of course, if you play jazz, that's probably not your
That's way
thing.
too much, probably, for the jazz style. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for a rock player,
Mm-hmm.
certainly for a metal player,
Yep.
or if you like shredders or anything that's real more aggressive, that maybe starts to become more appropriate for those kinds of sounds.
Yeah. Okay, now Thomas, you have something for our listener here, and
Yeah.
yeah, but wait, let me find where is the thing. Because streaming software just changed version today. I'm like, where is everything? Okay, I think that's the right thing. Yes, that's
It is, yes. And this is called Fretboard Freedom Blueprint. And what this is designed to, this is free, guys. So you can check this out at the link you see on the screen. You can download this right now. It's totally free. Okay. And this will help you to learn where everything is on the guitar. See, one of the things that slows people down when they're practicing or learning something, or certainly when they're improvising or even trying to write a song or a melody or solo, is just simply all the mental work that they have to do to try to remember, okay, where is that note? Where is the chord? Where's the next scale? I'm here now and I want to move up or down. What can I, that slight little hesitation, or maybe in some cases it's not that slight, but any kind of hesitation just kills the flow of, certainly, of improvising or being creative. And you don't want that. You want to be able to just know where things are and not have to go fish around and find them, and it just disrupts the learning process or the creative process or the practicing process. So this blueprint will help you see the fretboard in a way that's probably different than what you're used to. Okay, so a lot of my students have had a lot of good success with this. And again, it's totally free. You can check it out at the link on the screen, tomhess.net/fretboard hyphen freedom.
Thank you, Thomas. And I have something for our listeners too. If I find it. There. Nope, not this. Indeed, wrong button. Great, that's the right button. Okay, so that's another free ebook. Okay, you guys can get this one for free, no string attached, and it contains a few leaks. There are some boomer bands into this, yeah, of course, but it contains a few not leaks, but I call them the building blocks of leaks. So what comes before the leaks? Your guitar heroes have plenty of licks, and they sound good, and you like them. But where do those licks come from? They come from those movements here. Okay, those are 18 basic movements, if you want, 18 basic things you can do. Basic does not mean easy. Basic means you can build stuff with that. It's foundational stuff. You learn a few of those 18 tips, you put it together, you're going to find that you become a fountain of new licks that sound good, but they are your licks. You didn't copy them from other people. Because you start to understand how those phrases work. Where do they come from? You get the building blocks. I'm giving you a Lego box for guitar that it's better than licks, and it's free. So go download it, have some fun, and see what you can do with that. Very good. So let me get back to Mass. Very good. Thomas, thank you for sharing the new generation bands.
You're very welcome. It's always fun. This is one of my favorite topics. Phrasing is the thing I like the most about guitar, so this is certainly part of phrasing, and it's fun.
And phrasing is the thing that makes a difference on guitar. I mean, and as much as I like the complex stuff, okay, I mean, music theory, okay, as much as I like everything else, phrasing is the thing that makes the difference on guitar, and it's something that people should pay more attention to, because sometimes you just need one note, just play it the right way.
Sure. Absolutely agree.
Very good. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you, Dr. Zilio.
Thank everybody in the audience. Thank you for your questions. And I'll make sure to have Thomas' ebook link in the description in a few minutes. So I'm going to get that too. Don't worry. And everybody, until next time, enjoy.